Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. This is Monumental News. And to my super chat, thank you so much, Paul Bartlett. Thank you for starting off the super chat. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? CNN, Senate votes to confirm Pam Bondi as Attorney General. The New York Times, Senate confirms Pam Bondi as Attorney General. Fox News, Senate confirms Pam Bondi as U.S. Attorney General. Politico, Senate confirms Bondi as for Attorney General. This is phenomenal news. You'll get to hear Pam Bondi and others in a second. So, if there are any morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who finally are beginning to realize that the United States government, the American political establishment, even some media influence has been completely ripped away from them by Trump, by President Trump, and everyone around President Trump, I ask anyone who doesn't like Pam Bondi or any of Trump's cabinet pick to explain why. And Morning Flower, hello. Caroline, hello to the members of this channel. Hello. I ask any morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat who is up in arms and completely indignant and outraged, as always, as they always are. I mean, they're never happy. They were just as outraged and indignant when Trump first, became president in 2016, and nothing's changed. But anyway, I ask anyone who disagrees with President Trump and his cost-cutting measures to explain why 51 intelligence officials lied about Hunter's laptop. I would like morally superior liberal Democrats to explain why Merrick Garland and Eric Holder were held in contempt of Congress. I would like Democrats to explain why they don't have a functioning primary. Why was Biden forced out? Why was Bernie Sanders cheated? We can go on forever. Why did they accuse Trump of being a Kremlin operative when there was not a shred of evidence? I mean, we can go on forever. All of these people are up in arms now. Oh, I'm so upset. I can't believe that Elon Musk is doing this and that. It's like, well, the government is too bloated. The government is too wasteful. It wastes too much money. And it's utilized. A lot of these government agencies are utilized to further Democratic Party politics in all different ways. They're leveled against President Trump, and the same Federal Bureau of Investigation that will be completely altered and changed. The paradigm will be completely altered. The ideological paradigm of these organizations will be altered. And when it is, Democrats will no longer worship them. And so anyway, I can go on forever. I'm all over the place, but this is a sea change. It's a paradigm shift. You're finally going to have an administration that backs President Trump. He's finally going to have an administration that backs him. Okay, Democrats have acted with impunity. They have tried to intimidate Supreme Court justices. They have accused people of being linked to Russia without a shred of evidence. They have furthered fake and phony news stories through willing and, through activists who masquerade as journalists. They have utilized hit pieces from disingenuous, dishonest, deceitful writers as a public relations, simply as public relations, and we can go on forever. Everything that you've heard about Trump, the 24/7 hyperventilating for the past 8 years, that ain't going to happen anymore. Anyone who breaks the law trying to disparage Trump, trying to demean anyone around Trump's administration, leaking information, trying to ruin Trump's administration, undermine Trump's presidency, anyone who breaks the law will immediately be indicted and prosecuted. Hey, you know what? You act with impunity for 8 years. That's what happens. Hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat. Thank you, Paul. Let's get started. Thank you, Paul.
Trump's nominee for Attorney General Pam Bondi was just confirmed by a vote of 54 to 46. Joining me now, Chris Bedford, author of Beltway Brief. Chris, lone Democrat to vote for Bondi was Senator Fetterman. of Pennsylvania. It's frankly despicable that more Democrats didn't vote for her. She's eminently qualified for this job, which once again shows you that this is about politics with the minority party right now.
It is. And I actually wrote a Beltway Brief newsletter about this on Monday, whereas you compare to Biden's picks. There are all of his cabinet picks up through this week of February 2021. Only 2 Republicans voted against all of them. There's Senator Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley.
Merrick Garland was held in contempt of Congress. I mean, like, recent modern U.S. history is basically ancient Greece. The history of the Peloponnesian Wars by Thucydides is just as relevant to Democrats as Merrick Garland being held in contempt of Congress for withholding a special counsel's audio interview of Biden pertaining to his actual mishandling of classified data. Trump didn't mishandle classified data. He was a president with the power to declassify. Biden was a senator who had no right to put classified data in his garage or at a university.
Neither of whom were ranking members at the time or committee chairs at the time. Now, if you look at it, there are a dozen Democrats, including ranking members and powerful Democrats, who pretend to ask serious questions of nominees, who have voted against every single one of Donald Trump's nominees. They don't care about him having a cabinet. Right now, they're talking about holding up nominations to the State Department so that money can go to foreign countries. We are dealing with an extremely obstructionist party.
Well, we always think of, the midterms are going to be bloodletting for Republicans because the party in power often loses seats in the midterms. But given how things are going, given how Doge and Musk and Vance and the whole crew are finding so much waste, more fraud.
Elon Musk and Doge are 2 of the best things to ever happen to this country. The reason Democrats are up in arms is that their political power is being taken away from them. The state, like, communist ideology, I'm not calling Democrats communists, they're not communist, but in communism, the state is the political the political power, the political influence and power within society. In a communist society revolves around and emanates from the state, the government apparatus. The greater the size of government, the greater the authoritarian or despotic or totalitarian tendencies of a society. See, Democrats, though, don't see it that way. They found ingenious ways to influence American society and foreign policy through an expansive, gargantuan, Byzantine labyrinth of government agencies, political action committees, publication, media, press, different types of watchdog groups, all of these government agents. For example, the Federal Bureau of Investigation worked with Twitter to silence conservatives. This is a fact. There was zero justification. That is patently against the First Amendment. But the same far left love it. Don't you understand? It's their way. Well, their response is, well, Twitter's policies. Twitter's a private company. Yeah. And, the U.S. government was just abiding by Twitter's, terms of service. And they're petulant, disingenuous. I mean, we can go on forever. Democrats are not popular. They lost the popular vote to Trump, and that's despite 24/7 negative media coverage from journalists throughout the New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, The Atlantic, Mother Jones, The Nation, Daily Beast, Rolling Stone, New Yorker, New York Magazine. We can go on forever. CNN, MSNBC, I said. I mean, is there one Trump supporter at the New York Times? Do they ever publish anything supportive of Trump? And then you look at the journalists within all these publications. Well, I don't give to political parties. But you're a liberal Democrat. That's all you write about. You explain that the Russians wanted you to know that Bernie Sanders was cheated. You know, your journalism revolves around anything that the political establishment says took place that benefits the Democratic Party, you then write about. If Trump has a point anywhere in the known universe, you ignore that simply to harm him. And it's just, I mean, it's so blatant. That's why Trump won the popular vote. But this is all amazing what's taking place, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing.
Undoubtedly, they'll find abuse. Couldn't this actually be a real opening for Republicans with this team in place to build on this momentum that they found in 2024, Chris? That's how, if things keep going the way they're going, I think they're going to get more, not less popular.
It certainly could. People in D.C. keep on predicting a backlash to Elon Musk's cuts. But people in D.C. just haven't really understood that the pressure that put Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump at the front of the nominations in 2016, and then the pressure that brought Donald Trump back to office has been growing. The dissatisfaction amongst the American people with what is going on in Washington, D.C. has been growing. So I don't think that backlash is coming like the conventional wisdom says. Now, it sounds like after tonight's presser, things might move slowly. U.S. troops being killed at checkpoints in the Middle East again might change that calculus. But right now, the president is extremely popular.
Yeah, and again, if you remain popular, your agenda can be gradually more and more bold, Chris, right? We have a lot of presidents who are hesitant to exercise their executive authority.
When Democrats complain and media complains about Trump and Musk, the American people want this. That's why they voted for Trump. They want this. It's not that they want this Byzantine labyrinth of government agencies that are, that the country won't be able to afford in 10, 15 years. They want cost cutting. They want to end wasteful spending. And that used to be like a conservative Republican ideal or principle. Now Democrats, liberals, I mean, anyone who looks at this and says, yeah, we can't just go on forever this way. You can't have $1 trillion deficits forever. You can't just, shut down the U.S. economy. Trump, despite the opinions of experts, is trying to open up the economy. No. And then, of course, Falsey is then preemptively pardoned. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And we saw it with our own eyes. This was a propaganda machine that was running, and what happened like a supernova, the intensity caused it to just veer off the rails. The intensity of the nonstop hyperventilating and apoplectic coverage of Trump, the nonstop, ever-present, omnipresent vitriol, venom, anger against Trump, the country had enough. They indicted the man and prosecuted him and convicted him, and he won the popular vote. I mean, how miserably failed do you have to be as a brand, as a political party, if you literally try to imprison and you prosecute your direct political rival, and the country says you were wrong in doing so?
At home, not talking about foreign affairs. But I think President Trump gets more bold as time goes on, and that's going to piss off all the right people. But I think it's just going to keep this juggernaut going. That's how I see it. Real quick, 10 seconds.
He's very lucky to have mostly an executive agenda. Very little he needs the Congress for right now, except to fund border security and deportations. He spent 4 years in the wilderness getting sharper. Democrats will regret for the rest of their lives the way they treated him, because now he's back stronger than ever.
Thank you so much for joining.
Johnny Appleseed, Love Trucks, Stephanie, Caroline, Wisteria, everybody here, thank you. To the members of this channel, thank you. The executive branch, the president leads the executive branch. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. There's not one thing Democrats can do if Trump wants to fire through Doge any employee in the executive branch. There's nothing, literally nothing they can do. He's not asking for new funding. There's existing funding. The hilarious thing is that the Democrats passed their usual, the budget that they usually want, which is, funding that never ends, and Trump can now utilize that to fund his executive branch objectives. He can fire anyone in the executive branch, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Justice, all of these, USAID, it's all part of the executive branch. When you hear these like progressives or whatever, who knows what a progressive is, there's no far left in this country. It's all liberal Democrat. Like the communists and the socialists, they all vote Democrat anyway. And then if you don't vote Democrat, they look at you like you're, an abomination, which is hilarious. I don't know of any major pundit that didn't say vote Harris, vote Biden, vote Clinton. I mean, it's just, they're like artificial intelligent robots. Let's continue.
Joining me now is Utah Senator Mike Lee of the Judiciary Committee. He questioned.
So this is how Pam Bondi became the next Attorney General.
Pam Bondi today. Senator, this was quite something to watch. Most Americans just can't take it. But are the Democrats this out of gas?
BG, thank you so very, very, very much. Greatly appreciated.
I'm actually surprised they went with Kamala's failed arguments from the campaign. Did they mention Charlottesville? I was waiting for that.
Not once.
Oh, okay.
Nor did we see even a hint of irony, a hint of self-awareness from them, as they were peppering her with questions about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. I cannot fathom a universe in which they could say that without feeling some guilt and some shame along with that. Meanwhile, you've got Adam Schiff going after her. His state is literally looks like a post-apocalyptic hellscape, because it is, and he's worried about Liz Cheney.
Well, Adam Schiff, your friend, had a lot of trouble. He struggled to try to get some traction in his line of questioning. Watch.
So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President? I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis.
I will look at every file I am asked to look at.
Of course you won't. So will you advise the president?
Can I answer the question?
Well, my question
I would
is,
have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen,
hundreds of cases on the first day?
I'm not going to mislead this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You were
another question.
censured by Congress, Senator, for comments just like this.
Well, if this was a UFC fight, it would have been called. The second Pam Bondi responded to his first inanity. But again, the Democrats, I think, are perplexed by the situation they find themselves in, because this is the radical playbook that they attach themselves to, Senator. But it's not connecting. And usually when your material doesn't connect, at some point you change material, but not so far.
They've been using this material so long, and it's worked so long in part because the legacy media has helped them perpetuate that cycle. All of a sudden, there's weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth upon their realization that those tricks don't work anymore, but they're still stuck in the same pattern, and they can't seem to get out of it, and I'd actually like to see it.
How many staff prepare these senators for these hearings? I mean, give me a number, because I know you could do your own prep, because that's what you did at the Supreme Court, and that's what you have always done, but how many?
Look, it varies from senator to senator, but there may be 2 or 3 staffers involved in preparing some of them for a hearing like this one, where they expect
it's like the reading room. They're always just reading. There's no organic moments. I want to ask you about this FISA court issue, because Senator Cornyn came out today and made a point in his questioning to press.
Diane, thank you. Diane Stewart, thank you so very, very much. To my super chat, thank you. Greatly appreciated this evening. Diane, hope all is well. Thank you.
Pam Bondi on the efficacy of the FISA court, perhaps with some reforms, and worried that it's not going to be, funded again, that the court will be, lose its stature. You came out and said, not so fast.
That's right. I wanted to make sure that the rest of the country heard what I know about Pam Bondi, which is she understands the Fourth Amendment. She understands that the U.S. government can't go after your personal effects, your papers, your private communications without a warrant.
Warrantless searches.
Warrantless searches. And backdoor warrantless searches under FISA 702 have become a problem. We're told over and over again by FBI directors and attorneys general, don't worry about it. These aren't the droids you're looking for. We've got procedures to handle this. And they're lying.
Yes. Star Wars reference. These aren't the droids you're looking for. These aren't the droids we're looking for.
So Pam Bondi went on record today saying we shouldn't do that, and I'm thrilled that she did.
Oh, that was a good moment. Cornyn said it was basically a lot of misinformation about that's what he indicated about the FISA court, but you're saying that's not correct.
That's not correct, because we've had disclosure after disclosure where these guys have been abusing it left and right.
Well, they did with Trump. Look what they did with Trump.
They did with Trump. Trump's not going to put up with it, neither is Pam.
Senator, with your background, they need you on this committee. I'm glad you're on it. Thank you so much.
Click here.
Continues that the FBI, part of President Trump's efforts to root out agents that he thinks could politically weaponize law enforcement. At least 4,000 agents have been instructed to fill out a survey revealing if they had any involvement in the president's January 6th and classified documents cases. Let's bring in Jonathan Turley. So, Professor.
And of course, there are positive articles written in various publications of other good government officials who are standing up to Trump and Doge and Musk. The only reason that media is rallying around government officials who investigated Trump is because these government officials investigated Trump. The greatest enemy of wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats has been Trump and record low poverty and record highs in household median income and all the good things that Trump did in his first administration that got him a second term in the Oval Office. Like, what did this man do? Well, I can tell you, he took power away from a very warped and twisted political ideology. It was a cult. And anyone, you have people not going to Thanksgiving. I've lost lifelong friends because I didn't vote Democrat, because I voted Trump. They view it to be a sin. Do you understand? It's like a religion. Trump has destroyed the liberal political theology that took over U.S. politics and media.
The president is going through the DOJ and the FBI with a scrub brush. A lot of the president's supporters think that it's a needed house cleaning, but other people think it goes a bridge too far. What do you think?
Well, I was one of the loudest critics of these cases, and I believe the president has an interest, a need to reform both the FBI and the DOJ. Now, there's a difference between a focused reform and a blind purge. And I do have concerns that agents and line prosecutors could be punished for participating in these cases. These were cases conducted under court orders. And they shouldn't bear the cost of that. They're following orders. These are hierarchical organizations. The problem has always rested in the mid-level and high-level ranks. And some of those officials are still there. Others have left. But, this was part of the campaign promise that he would reform these agencies.
When I was in college, I interned at the State Department, and in the United States government, like you can go every president. There's a picture of the current president in these government buildings and the vice president. And I remember there was a picture of Bill Clinton and Al Gore. in government buildings and, different cabinet officials in different buildings. And it's like, if you were a conservative or Republican, that was just fine. It was like, you know what? You lost the election. Same with Democrats. Then was a picture years later, I'm sure, of Bush and Cheney. The government is paid by taxpayer dollars. If you're a government employee, if you're if you work in an intelligence agency, you're a government employee paid for by tax dollars. You can't text message other employees saying that we must stop Trump. Trump is a menace, all of these things. You can't use a government phone to disparage almost half the electorate. Let's say Trump didn't win the popular vote, but he still got half the electorate without media coverage, by the way. So he's a lot more popular than the average politician. He always was. But you can't simply disparage and demean and mock and denigrate half the American electorate on a government-issued phone paid for by U.S. tax dollars. And then you indict a former president? I mean, what did you think was going to happen? That you were going to be employed forever? I don't get it. You work for the United States government. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, it might not be the fault of people who were, doing their job, but the high level, the Biden administration shouldn't have put government officials in the position to indict and try to imprison a former president on nonsense. So much nonsense that even the Supreme Court ruled 3 different times on major rulings in his favor. They operated with such impunity, they kept losing Supreme Court decisions, and they just didn't know why. Then they went after the Supreme Court. And before that, they leveled the intelligence agencies against Trump and created a new Cold War. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Nope, the American public, the American electorate is tired of the photos of Bush and Cheney and Obama and Clinton. This is not something that most of the country longs for. 2 sides of the same coin. They wanted change. I thought President Obama would give us change. The real change came with Trump.
Is a great interest and a right to do so. It's just that I think we have to be very careful that line agents and prosecutors are not swept up simply for doing their jobs.
Right. Well, the president said in the Oval Office on Friday that this is about more than just him. Listen to how he put it.
We have some very bad people over there. It was weaponized at a level that nobody's ever seen before. They came after a lot of people, like me, but they came after a lot of people. No, I wasn't involved in it. I'll have to see what is exactly going on after this is finished. But if they fired some people over there, that's a good thing because they were very bad.
So what do you think? Is this about more than just him?
Well, I think there is a real problem with the culture at the FBI and DOJ. Mm-hmm. And remember, this is a president in his first term was met with an acting attorney general who ordered the entire department to stand down and not assist him in his immigration reforms. He wants to get this work done quickly, and he has experienced that you can have resistance of this kind. So I think you have to be careful. You have to make sure you're protecting career people who are doing their job according to what they were ordered to do by courts or by their supervisors. At the same time, I do think you need to get to the real basic question of how to reform these agencies. These are the hardest of hard silos, particularly the Department of Justice. It's filled with lawyers. They know how to resist efforts at reform. So it's not going to be an easy task, but it's a task that is worth taking on.
Right. So here's what the senior senator from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Mark Warner, said about, I don't want to say purge, because that would connote one thing, but this idea of going through and scrubbing the FBI. Here's how we put it.
If you are suddenly taking out the most experienced folks at Justice or at the FBI, how does that make us stronger? What does that mean for our cybersecurity? What is
the U.S. government and these agencies allowed Clinton to have secret private servers. It was the greatest cybersecurity nightmare of all time. where half of the emails were deleted, and nobody to this day, the U.S. government doesn't know, apparently, allegedly doesn't know what emails were deleted. And these are servers that the government couldn't extract information, but of course, classified emails were emailed onto those servers. How does that happen? How on earth can classified data be transferred onto secret private servers run by a Democratic Party Secretary of State? So please, yes, pontificate about cybersecurity. And then you use a dossier literally purchased again by Clinton? I mean, it's like the Democratic Party is not the Clintons. The Clintons can get away with, pretty much anything. They're like ingenious. But the Democratic Party can't. They've acted with impunity forever. They've broke laws, created a new Cold War, a McCarthy-era Red Scare, everything from these myths, these sacred cows that they hold so dear that Trump never said, never did. They accused him of fomenting a rebellion when that entire summer there was billions in property damage, lives lost, and they couldn't care less. But let's continue.
What does it mean for our trafficking and stop against fentanyl and other drugs? What does it mean in terms of, serious crime investigation?
Replicate. At the same
He's not going after the departments in charge of those types of you need the FBI. You definitely need the FBI, Central Intelligence. You need intelligence agencies to protect us from actual adversaries, not to protect us from Trump. Democrats are like, well, there's a dossier. There's intel that showed us that Trump could be working with another country. I mean, this is a big deal. It's like, no, you're just pretending this is serious because you despise Trump and you want to hold on to political power, while pretending you're. I love the left-leaning pundits who pretend they're going up against a machine and not once said it was wrong that Democrats cheated candidates left and right, Biden being the latest one.
Jarrett, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. Pam, let's get your take on the legal aspects of this. There are certain rules that must apply in a courtroom. Hearsay evidence is not admissible, for example. Withholding exculpatory evidence, that is not acceptable either in a courtroom. Both seem to be acceptable here. Your thoughts on both those issues?
Well, first, Sean, that's why people don't trust Congress, because of show trials just like this, just what we experienced in impeachment 1 and 2. This is continuing on. The committee, the unselect committee, they didn't want to hear these witnesses because they don't want the truth. And, they put on this young woman in her 20s who had been unemployed for over a year. She reached out to me because she was very excited. She was moving to Palm Beach to work for the president. She loved President Trump well after the election. She loved him.
I have a report tonight that she worked for President Trump in the D.C. Post-president office, post-presidency.
She reached out to me because she reached out to me, Sean, because she was looking for a place to live in Florida. She was very excited. This is a young 20-something-year-old, did not have financial resources, had not been employed, and was excited about moving to Palm Beach. Then her contemporaries told the president that she could not be trusted. She was a leaker when she was in the White House, and she didn't get to go to Palm Beach. She reached out to me again, and she was very upset. I didn't understand why people would say that about her. The woman I saw yesterday on the stand was not the same woman. Now I understand. She was well rehearsed, and in a court of law, she would have been cross-examined. Were you promised something for your testimony? A job? Money? Did you receive immunity for getting on the witness stand?
And it was the same old story for years. Pam Bondi said it perfectly. The media was intoxicating to a great many people. But see, it does no good for anyone to be praised by deceitful, disingenuous, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats masquerading as journalists, who are like journalists, quote unquote journalists, are really activists. They are so proud of this veneer of impartiality, but everyone knows they're just working for one political party. It's like, who is actually naive and gullible enough to think that most of American media isn't firmly on the side of the Democratic Party? Like, who actually thinks media is unbiased, apolitical, nonpartisan? I mean, you'd have to be a complete fool to believe that. Anyway, hit subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to my super chat. Thank you. Be here tomorrow. Definitely check out. I do 2 uploads every day and the live stream, so 3 different videos a day. We're going to step it up also, depending on, I think that this is just going to be amazing. Musk and Doge, what they're doing is going to benefit the country for a long, long, long time. Hit subscribe, everybody. Thank you to my super chat.